Here we are, and welcome to a Mortal Kombat edition, a fighting, a martial arts. I don't really know what it is, but it's gonna be extremely violent. There's gonna be a lot of opinions because we are going to be talking a lot about and reviewing Mortal Kombat. And before we get to our amazing guest, Jakejames Lugo, I want to just check in with my sister, Becky. You gave up your Friday night to watch this movie. Do you feel like the move to the East Coast was worth it just to be able to do that?
100%, without a doubt. It was one of the most delightful surprises of my year was this movie. I'm so excited to talk about it. I know nothing about Mortal Kombat before seeing this movie. So that's like part one. Part two, I'm a little bit nervous to have the conversation about Mortal Kombat with a true expert, and then you, Shai, whatever you happen to know, because I feel like I'm stepping into a world where, I don't know, I worry that it's going to be like people who never watched Star Wars and were like, The Last Jedi is great. What's your problem? Like, I don't want to ruffle feathers by being like the one in the room.
I can guarantee you it won't be that, because I think there's a lot to like if you're a Mortal Kombat fan. Okay. But I think this is going to be great because I feel like we have three different flavors, and I'll introduce our guests in a moment. We have you, who, like, I was explaining to, like, basic who Scorpion and Sub-Zero were while we were
I still have tons of questions. Movie barely made sense to me. We're gonna have a huge Q&A section to this episode.
And then you have me, who I enjoy the games, but I also just love the pop culture phenomenon that is Mortal Kombat. And so I am aware of the lore, but not super attached to it. And then we have with us Jakejames Lugo, content creator, a host, a gaming expert, a YouTuber. He's written for IGN, Playboy, The Coalition, Switch Player Magazine, and Red Bull Gaming. I got a chance to meet him at a Comic-Con in Florida, and he's actually and he's been on the show before, and it is great to have him. He runs an amazing YouTube channel. Jakejames Lugo, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the kind words. Nice to meet you again, and your sister, and have me on here and stuff. Everybody dealing with quarantine, but we're having fun with it. We're making the best of it. So
100%.
I have to say, do you play more or less? I mean, in the quarantine era, do you play more or less video games than you already did, seeing how it's so integral to your profession?
Because I play a lot. I play more than the average person, like a ridiculous amount. And I think that my gaming habits, I have to say, are probably somewhat the same, probably a little bit more, because I've been able to like change up my time, here and there, because I haven't been going out like most other people. But I've always played a lot. Like I complete more games than the average person throughout the year, like even within a given month. Like I complete and play more.
When you say complete, like you beat the game, like you get every level.
Complete is like such a loose thing. So like complete.
Let's start with that, because my video gaming knowledge, I obviously like understand what gaming is and have a sense of gaming culture, but my personal experience is like Super Nintendo in the 90s.
Yeah, that's good.
Like Street Fighter or Mario Kart. And
this is why me and you can relate, because I was a Genesis kid, like a born and bred Genesis kid that I've always been open with, because me and the Sega Genesis have almost the same birthday year. Like we're literally like right there. The Mega Drive came out in 88, and then the Genesis came out here in the United States in 99. I was born in 88. So like that's like in my, my heritage, my blood.
Okay.
The way I describe completing a game, it's not necessarily completing. That's a very loose term for some people. Like to me, completing is just finishing the game. It's just like, okay, I finished it start to finish. I got an ending, credits, whatever. I didn't go and get 100% completion sometimes, like, because I think that everybody's time is valuable, and especially with now more modern games taking a lot of time to complete, especially like MMOs, JRPGs, Western RPGs, other types of games that have a ridiculous amount of content, sometimes for no reason that's not even relevant, get like 50 to 100 plus hours out of it, which might be good value for your money, for some people. But like when it comes to like what's relevant, what's interesting, like how does it make me feel throughout those like first 10, 20 hours getting to that point? Am I going to complete a game like that? Out of the 50 hours it takes to complete it like fully, I play like 30 or 40 hours out of it. I think I'm good. And I think most people are good, at that point.
So back what Jakejames is talking about here is that when you finish a game now and you finish the story from beginning to end, there are all these things called side quests and campaigns and
extra content.
extra
Okay, all
content
the extra
that like,
content,
so
got
your
it.
game isn't really finished, right? So
But
that's
you
either
can
like,
still complete the game,
Yeah,
like Jakejames is
finished
saying. Get to
finished
the
is however is whatever you make it to be by the time
Okay.
you're actually going through an experience. Like you could be finished, quote unquote, with a game after the first couple hours and be like, I was not feeling this. Like I'm done. Like no one cares. This was $60 wasted. And that's a valid opinion. Like everybody's different when it comes to this. I think we sometimes, you know, especially with social media, like on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever else, and even YouTube, I would say, you know, we get a lot of these like gatekeeping like opinions and perspectives that be like, oh, you have to do this certain thing or you have to feel this certain way when you're playing games. And that's not good. You know, a lot of people that, you know, are into games, that are really into video games like that, they don't care how you enjoy games. They just care that you're enjoying games. And that's all that matters.
and I will say, having watched your YouTube channel, what I love about it is that not only do you talk about the relevant stuff, like or the more time relevant stuff, you go back into a lot of that classic and 90s and 80s stuff in like a very contemporary way.
Yeah.
And like you'll go and you re-review one of these classic games, The Legend of Zelda, The Adventure of Link, and I like the way you walk through the pros and cons of those, as opposed to just saying thumbs up, thumbs down. I always feel like we get a really
You know why?
comprehensive
Because
review.
the way I look at it, for me personally, like one of my biggest inspirations, even though I've had other like mentors and inspirations throughout the years, one of my biggest inspirations is Siskel and Ebert, is Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel. And the reason being is because their approach to film, you know, to movies and the way that they critique movies as reviewers, because they are the original critics. Those are the critics that everybody's referring to and that they emulate in some way because of what they did with, you know, Siskel and Ebert on their shows and stuff. But they loved film so much, they were able to review like multiple films throughout a week. Like that, like, you know, granted, gaming and films have different types of time frames, you know, when it comes to like consuming that media, but they loved it so much they would do all types of stuff, old stuff, new stuff, whatever else. But it was the way that they talked about it, the way that they looked at it, the way that they bickered all the time, that was so fascinating to me and many other people. So like in the way that I translated, the way I could see like a lot of parallels is like how looking at someone like Adam Sessler or Morgan Webb from like X-Play, or looking at Victor Lucas from like Judgment Day, like a lot of the G4 shows that had like video game criticism and stuff in comparison to stuff that what you see with IGN now these days and stuff. Like I get a lot of that stuff that I see, and I could see a lot of like, you know, the same way that Siskel and Ebert would look at films. So I try to like, you know, in the way that I write and the way that I talk about games, you know, to kind of like borrow elements of that. And I think that it's good if you approach it like that, especially with older games, because you could still have like your modern perspective on it and like see things like, okay, what's aged well, what's become a classic or iconic game and stuff, while at the same time still appreciating what's new and like what's coming out, what's good or bad, etc. It's all the same type of medium and still giving the same type of reverence throughout.
That's awesome. Well, I think the Siskel and Ebert reference is the perfect segue into talk about the long-awaited Warner Brothers Mortal Kombat 2021. Now, I saw the original Mortal Kombat in the theater with my friend Josh when it came out, and I remember I played the game, but I was a Street Fighter kid more so in those days. Like I played Mortal Kombat, but I was very interested in this movie because the looks of the characters and are just so iconic, and the idea of having it fit into a story. And when you compare those two movies, when you compare Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat, the first Mortal Kombat is an infinitely better movie. It's cooler, it's better done, it's more
Edgy.
yeah, and it's more connected to the game. Not that it has to be totally connected to the game, but it really makes you feel, I mean, it's ridiculous, but it was great. And it had that classic
that techno.
that yeah, Mortal Kombat. And so I remember seeing it, and then I've always paid attention to the little cinematic things that have dropped with related to Mortal Kombat. There were these short films made a few years ago that suggested that like, oh yeah, they really should get back to this. And I don't know why it took them so long to do this. To me, it seems just like an obvious property to work with. But I was so thrilled that they were making it again. And I think, although I really missed the theaters, the fact that it was on HBO Max allowed Becky and I to watch it together on a Friday night. And I'll just say, top line, my reaction was, visually, it was a lot of fun. I felt like I was watching more than just a cutscene of the video game. I was like in it. I appreciated some of the new things, didn't appreciate some of the other things. I think that if we're really getting a trilogy, then I'm okay with the oversimplicity of this story and that it was really just like an introduction. And if they don't make another one, which will be pretty annoying, I'll feel kind of unsatisfied. But like overall, I really liked it. I'm gonna go to Becky, and then I'll go to Jakejames. Becky, what was your reaction? And would you have known this was a video game movie if I had just showed it to you regularly?
Well, I mean, I know that Mortal Kombat is a video game. So in that sense, because it shares the title Mortal Kombat, I would have been like, oh, this probably has something to do with that video game. But I know nothing about the video game. So other than that title, no, watching it, I would not know that this has to do with a video game at all. Like it actually held up to me as its own story. However, there were some like, as shy, maybe it's the oversimplification over me, just things where I was like, I don't really understand. Like it what I have, and I'll get into my questions later. So there was a lot of questions about who's who and from where and what they can do and why and who are the gods and who are the demon zombie. Like I don't know what everyone is and how that hierarchy works. And so in that sense, certain parts really didn't make sense to me. But I imagine if you follow the video game or you know the history of the video game, it would make sense. So it felt like there was a piece of the puzzle missing and probably for a lot of fans filled in.
But are you also grateful they didn't over-explain things? Because
I am so grateful that they didn't over-explain things because there's nothing I despise more than exposition in a movie. I would rather not know and have them just say, these are the rules of the world. I'm not filling in all the blanks. Eventually you'll figure it out. I'm perfectly fine with that than somebody saying, who is so-and-so? This god works for that god and they have these powers. Like, it's fine. It makes enough sense. Now I will say we go to watch it. I'm like an hour and 50 minutes. I was like, I'm not staying till the end. I'm not finishing the movie. And I will say it's actually more like an hour 40 because it's 10 minutes of credits. It's an hour 40. It did not feel like an hour 40. It went by, for me, really fast. It was so much fun. It was a very particular type of movie in that it's nonstop action. So it delivers on that really, really well, where it's just constantly moving forward with the next exciting action scene and the next one after that. So I just had so much fun watching it. For me, it was like it was the epitome of a Friday night movie. End of the week, I'm exhausted. My brain is mush. I want to sit in front of the TV and I just want to have fun. And it was fantastic. That's my very long, quick review.
That's awesome. I love it. All right, Jakejames, your review, your overall impression. You've been following the game since the beginning.
Yes.
What'd you think? Would you recommend it?
Well, I did a vlog review about it, like literally day out, because I saw it that morning, like super early on HBO Max, and then I saw it again later because my parents actually watched it, and I watched it with them. So I saw the movie like twice that same day.
And I have watched your review. I'm just pretending I haven't seen it, right. So I know some of it.
I know, like I've been hyped up. People that know me and follow me, I've been hyped up for this movie for a while, for a long time, since it first got announced or revealed and stuff. And I'm a huge Mortal Kombat fan. I started with the Sega Genesis Mortal Kombat, but I played it in the arcades. And again, I've been with it since, and I'm huge into the lore and stuff like that. The cool thing is like what Becky was describing, this was a perfect Friday night movie, like to watch it and stuff, just like chill, have fun with it. Because if you're going to this movie expecting anything else, then you're going to be disappointed. Like this is not that movie that you want like philosophical stuff going into it. Like this is a fun movie. Like you want to watch this in the same way that you would watch The Raid, or when you would watch an action.
Let's be clear. I think The Raid is a masterpiece.
The Raid's much better than this.
The Raid is the best action movie of the last 20 years, and it still has yet to be beaten. But I like what you're saying, because aside from the fact that Joe Taslim is in this, and now I'm just freaking out because of that.
Yeah,
he's also in The Raid. It had Raid vibes, which is great.
With the fighting and stuff, like the visual aesthetic of like the combat and the action it reminds me of that. Like a better comparison, like you want to watch this in the same way that you would go watch a Fast and Furious movie, where you're just going in there, you're just taking in what they give you and just rolling with it. And that's fine. Now, here's my biggest criticisms of the game that I've said in my own review, and I've talked about it with a few people who are yes and no Mortal Kombat fans, right? So my biggest thing is that the lore is there from the games. Like there's a lot of fan service, like a ridiculous amount of fan service and Easter eggs that the common person like Becky is not going to get. Like they're just not going to understand because they don't follow this stuff, and that's fine. But the problem is though, is that sometimes I feel like the movie leans way too heavy on it. And it's just like it doesn't get into it enough because there's a lot of interesting stuff there. Like there's even characters that show up in this that are from the games that are like, especially from the more modern games, that are just there as eye candy and they just serve no purpose to the plot. And it's cool for the fans. You know, we get it, but then like they kind of get done dirty and they're kind of just there. And it's like, okay.
So what's an example? Because I'll say,
I got a perfect example right now.
My example for me, because I was explaining Mylena to Becky. Mylena is one of the characters, a female evil one, the one with the big mouth, back with the detachable jaw. And I was like, oh, she's a clone of Katana, and she's jealous of her, and she wants her throne, and like that's all this stuff. And
they don't explain that in the movie. There's nowhere there.
I mean, that wasn't necessary for the plot of this movie, but she was sort of demoted to like a henchwoman. And I don't remember. Spoiler alert. I mean, we always do. All of our movie reviews are filled with spoilers. So there's no, I don't remember if she dies or not, but like if this is the only time we've seen Mylena, that's kind of disappointing because she's a central villain with depth that's already been charted out for us. That's one for me. What about you?
Here's the problem. Okay, because Melina's one of them. There's a couple in here that are like that. Melina, her whole backstory related to Katana, to Outworld, because she's what's called a Tarkatan. That's why she has that open mouth and like all this like fangs and stuff. Her race is literally an important thing in the Mortal Kombat universe because that's the army of Shao Kahn. Like he uses the Tarkatans to do his bidding on top of all the other races and stuff, right? As part of his armies. And she's
Shao Kahn is Shang Tsung's boss. Back
is his boss. Like that's the big dude.
Shao Kahn is not referenced in this movie.
No, he is. He actually is.
Okay.
There's a statue, like the big statue when they're hanging out and Shang Tsung's talking to all the people.
And that's statue, like who we like in this
he's like Thanos. Basically.
Okay, so in this movie, the guy that's like the big bad guy, there's really someone above him.
Yeah, there's someone above him. Okay, which is
and then what's the story with the Mortal Kombat being like? It's like the god. They mentioned like, this is decided by like the old gods are the ones that tell.
Okay, so let me explain it.
But they're not paying attention, so I can just go and kill everyone.
So let me explain it in the most simple way because I don't think the movie really does a good job of like explaining what Mortal Kombat is. Like they have the text and they talk a little bit about it, but I think that it's a little bit scattered because there's a lot of things to the Mortal Kombat tournament that I don't think they deliver in a nice, good way. Basically, the tournament, Mortal Kombat itself, is the actual name of it. Is the actual name of the tournament. And it's to prevent the realms from merging, from having one realm invade another realm.
Okay.
And basically when that happens, the reason why that could happen is that they have this tournament. And if one realm wins 10 straight Mortal Kombat tournaments, it's called absolute victory. That realm could now invade the other realm. So basically where everybody's from, all the bad guys are from, okay, Shang Tsung, Melina, Cabal, Nitara, all these characters, the bad guys in this movie, they're from a place called Outworld. That's where Shao Kahn rules. That's where Shang Tsung is from. They've won 9 tournaments up to the point before the movie starts. Okay. They've done it. And one of the things that he was bragging about is that he's been underhanded with his way of trying to win the tournaments. He's been bending the rules and kind of breaking them. And the reason why he comes out and says that is because the Mortal Kombat tournament is enforced by the Elder Gods. That's basically Raiden himself, the guy with the electricity. He's an Elder God, but he also reports to these older Elder Gods that are pretty much, they oversee everything that's going on with all the realms in the entire universe. They're the ones that made the Mortal Kombat tournament. The problem is that Shang Tsung's bragging about how he's coming into Earthrealm right now, like actually passing into Earthrealm from Outworld and killing off all the combatants before the tournament starts. The Mortal Kombat tournament itself is not in this movie. It's actually all this entire movie takes place before the tournament, which is a huge change up for a lot of people, especially fans, because the tournament is supposed to be really the centerpiece of like what's going on, like the actual plot device. But all this is happening before the tournament even gets underway. So Shang Tsung is trying to kill everybody before the tournament happens. And he'd be like, hey, there's nobody here to fight me.
Why don't the gods care that he's basically breaking the rules?
He throws in there. He says that they're lazy. And it's like, they just don't care which is a thing. In the older games, the elder gods do kind of mingle and get involved with certain stuff in some of the games in the extended lore and such. But it's like one of those things is like the elder gods got like bigger problems to deal with. They got other things that are like not as big. And it's like he's bending the rules. He hasn't necessarily broken them.
But Raiden is a god, right?
Yeah, he's an elder god.
Okay.
Yeah. No, he's a sorcerer. Shang Tsung is a sorcerer.
Shang Tsung is a sorcerer, not a god.
Not a god, no.
So technically Raiden is more powerful, or they're about
kinda
equal?
like, again, the movie doesn't really like convey that well. Like they're all strong warriors, like especially Lord Raiden. Again, he shoots lightning out of his hands. He teleports. He could teleport anybody. They even say in the movie, he could teleport anybody
anywhere. Okay.
The thing is that Raiden is the one that's like following the rules, but it's mandated by the elder gods and stuff. And Shang Tsung's been bending them, not necessarily breaking them, to the point that as much as he could go. Because as soon as he breaks them, or at least, the movie doesn't really show, but as soon as he does break them, the elder gods could step in and actually be like, yo, like you're doing something wrong here. But they don't do so. And he's like saying like, oh, they just don't care or whatever. And that's why he's going about things the way he's going about it. So that way he could serve his emperor, which is Shao Kahn, and actually invade Earthrealm, which is Earth.
My most important question is, I'm trying to understand the champions or the combatants that are part of Raiden's team, the good guys.
The good people, yeah.
Are all of these different, like we meet Cole, what's the Blade? What's her name?
Sonya Blade.
Jax, right?
Kano,
right? And we are very aware that these four are like human mortals born recently. But then the two other champions that we meet as part of their training, Liu Kang and Kung Lao, are they like, because for some reason they felt to me like they might be immortal, like they've been around for many tournaments, or are they also newbies like the rest of the team?
So again, this is another thing that the movie doesn't really convey that well. Like every one of Raiden's champions, all the warriors that we see, they're all from Earth. They're all from Earth.
Oh, they're all from Earth.
They're all mortal. Okay. The thing is like some of these characters, Cole is not a character from the Mortal Kombat games. He's an original creation for the movie here. Everybody else, for the most part, is from the games. Now, Jax and Sonya Blade, they're military. Okay, they're special forces and stuff. Kano is part of a group called the Black Dragon Clan, and he's just basically like a criminal of criminal underworlds. He has a criminal empire. He does like gun running and arms dealing and stuff. Liu Kang and Kung Lao are part of a Shaolin Temple. They're from the White Lotus Society. Okay, Kung Lao specifically, but Liu Kang is also part of the Shaolin Temple that's there, that worships, the Mortal Kombat tournament, that worships Raiden, Lord Raiden. Raiden is the elder god that is tasked with protecting Earthrealm from Outworld.
Now the Outworld crew, are they like, what are they? Because they're not mortals.
All different things. Like, and again, this is one of those things where the movie glances over. Like, Melina is a Tarkatan. She's part of the race that works for Shao Kahn. That she actually, in her far backstory, she's a hybrid clone of Katana, who's the princess of Outworld, and all this other stuff, right? It's not necessarily Outworld; it's another realm called Edenia. But again, it gets far removed from the movie. So, Shang Tsung is a sorcerer that works for Shao Kahn. He uses black magic that was taught to him by Shao Kahn in order to not only extend his life but also make him powerful and
is Shao Kahn also a sorcerer? Is Shao Kahn also a sorcerer, or is he?
Shao Kahn is I think he's like the son or some sort of thing of like another elder god or something like that. Again, in some of the extended lore, the other movies, keep in mind, have like really screwed this up for a lot of people in the general public because there's a lot of muddy things and such. But he's basically the ruler of Outworld. Like he's not a sorcerer, but he's like a crazy powerful warrior.
Okay, so but then all the people working for him are basically, unless they get killed or like sawed in half, they're essentially immortal because we see Sub-Zero.
Yeah, this is what I was just about to say.
What is it, like 600 years in the past?
The thing is that the movie doesn't make it clear that Sub-Zero, for whatever reason, he's lived a long time. Like they glance over it like really like quickly because
that he just shows up 600.
Yeah, he just shows up. Like him and Scorpion are in feudal Japan in that beginning part of the movie. Like that's when he kills his entire clan. He kills Scorpion. They're in feudal Japan, and he's also Sub-Zero is not Japanese. He's Chinese. That's actually from the original movies, the songs, like the soundtrack. They call him a Chinese ninja warrior. And he actually speaks Chinese. He speaks Mandarin, I think it is, at one point. And then he switches between 3 languages, and it's like really weird. And it's like, for whatever reason, they thought it was cool at one point for him to speak English in feudal Japan, which makes no sense for everything going on, right? But, they don't make it clear that he's lived a long time, which we have to assume, or at least, going by the movie's logic, he probably got that from Shang Tsung or someone where allowed him to live throughout those centuries.
Right, because he's this powerful sorcerer.
The same thing with with Melina. The same thing also with Reiko, which is another character they kind of just throw in there. Reiko is actually from Mortal Kombat 4 and some of the later games.
He was the guy with the melted head and the hammer.
Yeah, the dude
was
with
like
the hammer. He's like a false stand-in for Shao Kahn in the games. Like, it's really weird. Like, he's just there in the movie. Natara is another one that's like kind of thrown in there. She's the vampire bat lady.
Yeah, and then she just shows up and she's like, boom,
shows up. She's from Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. She's just, again, no relevance to anything else going on. And then Cabal.
Then it feels to me a little bit like the creators of this version of the story of this film threw in a bunch of characters that show up in later ones almost as like a token, because a lot of these all these characters basically get killed off. So
most of them do.
Yeah. So I don't believe, we'll get this when we talk about predictions, I don't believe that any of the bad guys are dead. I feel like if you're otherworldly, you can always go back to NetherRealm and get rebooted. I'm not sure anybody
turns into a shadow revenant. He turns into Noob Saibot in the games. Because
I see that Sub-Zero.
There's multiple Sub-Zeros in the Mortal Kombat lore. This one that we see in this movie is called Bihan, who is the original Sub-Zero, and he gets killed by Scorpion, obviously. But in the games, after he gets killed by Scorpion, he becomes Noob Saibot, which is like the shadow ninja warrior from the NetherRealm that's working for Shao Kahn and Quan Chi and all this other stuff.
Okay, right.
So
and so
there's more craziness.
Wow, this is a very complex world.
It's very complicated. And you can't do that in a movie. This is why I was even thinking about this at one point. And even based off the older movies, Mortal Kombat would be so much better as a series, because you could focus episodes on other stuff and really build out this lore and this universe.
It would be a great series, because
it would be awesome.
You could spend time, really learning about each of these world and groups and clans and the different powers. And
it could be like a Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones meets Titans.
Check this out, right? Here's one thing that we get in the film that we don't really get in the film, that they only hint at it because they just never really explore it. They talk about it briefly in relation to Cole. The blood feud between the Lin Kuei and the Shirai Ryu, which is Scorpion and Sub-Zero's clan. They mention it. They don't talk about it. They never explore it. They say that Cole has lineage to Scorpion because, remember, Raiden finds the kid. What is it? Over the centuries, the bloodline passes down the mark of the dragon, which is another thing that's completely dropped the ball in the film and stuff. They just don't get into a lot of stuff. And, I get it. They're trying to build out what could be a franchise.
So then this also means that Cole's daughter... she'll get a dragon marking eventually.
Because he has to die first. Cole has to die, and whoever, whether it's natural causes or somebody kills him, then that's when the dragon tattoo gets passed. That's another thing that they just don't really explain very well what happens with the dragon tattoo, because some of the characters that we see in Raiden's group, they never originated with a dragon tattoo. They took it from other people like that. But with specifically Scorpion's bloodline for Cole, it's been passed down through the centuries through his bloodline. So I guess when somebody dies, one of their offspring would get it. Or
that's a very muddy component.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So let's talk about some of these characters. We've dropped a bunch of these characters. MVP characters. That's something I always like to talk.
Hands down.
Kano. Josh Lawson.
Kano's the MVP of this whole movie. Yeah, he's the one that makes this movie fun. That's clearly there's a whole section in the middle of the movie for me personally that drags when they're training, because there's not a lot happening there, but all the one-liners, all the dialogue, all the witty comebacks and just stupid things that he says makes it so hilarious and so fun to be around.
Has someone made a supercut of just his hat jokes of Kung Lao's hat? That needs to happen. All right, Becky, who is your MVP?
Mine's Liu Kang, because I feel like each of these, combatants, champions, whatever they're called, are a little bit scattered. And then when they get to the training center, he gives it purpose. He centers everything. I understand why we're here. What do they need to accomplish? How are they supposed to be getting, what is going on? He gives, to me, it's funny because the prophecy is that Cole is going to be the one that unites them. And I'm I'm pretty sure it was Liu Kang that brought everyone together.
Well, in the game, Liu Kang is the main guy.
I just love that he looks so delicate, but he's a badass. And I
He's
just,
ripped.
yeah, like there are veins that have muscles on that.
Yeah, there's a scene where it's just him showing his muscles, where everyone, like I watched with my wife and Becky, and they were both like, "Ooh, look at all those."
Ooh, more of that. He's
It's
just
totally a nod to Bruce Lee. Like his character conception in the games was always a nod to Bruce Lee, and they even carried it into here. So
okay, so I was a big fan. I was a big fan of him. Yeah,
I thought that, considering I didn't know if Liu Kang was actually going to be a character in the movie, because I was actually wondering if Cole was going to be just like a replacement for Liu Kang. So I really liked the way they brought him in as this kind of mature team leader, almost kind of like Cyclops from the X-Men. Like he's sort of like serious, but he's noble, and I love that. So for me, my MVP. Okay, so my MVP, like from the games, is like always Kung Lao, and I loved seeing Kung Lao in this movie. And I thought that to the parts that he was alive, I thought he was amazing. So like I thought that was like just it gave me so much joy to see Kung Lao and Liu Kang together. But my real MVP is gonna be Joe Taslim as Bihan, as Sub-Zero. I loved him in the Raid movies. I thought he was so menacing as a villain, and I think like the physical fighting in this movie, like it has to be good by today's standards. It can't be like hokey or cheesy. Like these guys have to be believable fighters, and he's got a track record. And I thought he was great as that lower level villain. I thought his Sub-Zero had more personality than the other incarnations of Sub-Zero.
agreed.
So, and Sub-Zero is, and well, Liu Kang's my favorite of the good guys, but Sub-Zero is my just favorite character.
To me, in this film, Sub-Zero feels overpowered. Like they really buffed him up to like be a really big threat, like for obviously, going on through the plot and stuff. Like when him and Hiroyuki Sanada, the Scorpion, the guy who plays Scorpion, that when they're on screen, they're fighting, they're awesome. It's an amazing choreography, amazing action sequences and stuff. But when Sub-Zero's like dealing with everything else in the world and such, he feels way too overpowered compared to what he is in the actual games and the lore and stuff. I felt like he kind of comes off almost as big as a threat, compared to like Raiden or Shang Tsung. Like the ones that I felt that were the weakest were some of the characters that took a lot of backseat stuff that really didn't even do a lot of fighting. Like Shang Tsung, like outside of him killing Kung Lao and ordering people around, like he doesn't really do much throughout this whole movie. And the same thing with Raiden. Raiden also, he's stupid powerful and he does a couple things, but like he takes a backseat to a lot of stuff.
True.
So I think this is a really if I go to my, we do a thing called LVP, which is our least valuable player. And even though again Raiden goes into my favorite characters from the show, from the game, and I am happy that he was not like cast with Christopher Lambert, although I love Christopher Lambert, but like he was cast as Raiden in Mortal Kombat in the 90s. And that's just wildly inappropriate to have a Frenchman playing this like, mythical Shaolin monk. But they didn't give Raiden was really like sort of an abstract kind of more of a god, really removed. He wasn't a personality. I feel like they gave a little bit of his personality as the like trainer to Liu Kang. They sort of shifted everyone over a little bit.
Yeah, but not even like he didn't even really do that. Like his backstory in the games, especially if you just limit it to the first game, his backstory with the Elder Gods and why he's involved with the Mortal Kombat tournament is so much more interesting than what we got here. Because in the games, for everybody that doesn't know, like he relinquished his Elder God status to fight in the tournament, so he becomes mortal, but he still has his powers like of lightning and stuff. But he wants to help out everybody in Earthrealm so much, he's willing to take that extra step. That's what makes him vulnerable to Shang Tsung and Shao Kahn like that in the games. But they don't get that in this movie at all. Like they talked about it in some of the older movies, especially Annihilation, which was kind of bad. But that plot point or that element of the character would be so awesome in something like this, because then it makes everything else much more of a threat and he's not as OP, compared to everybody else. But they just didn't do that. And it's just he felt he was like just a stand-in. Like some of the other characters, they're just stand-ins and eye candy, just to be there for the fans and to be quote unquote faithful to the original games and just the original story and stuff. But I think for me, my least like valuable character would be Cabal, to be honest with you, besides Raiden. Like Cabal, he was like
He was
weird.
the kind of robotic guy.
He's not a robot. Here's the thing. Like again, the movie doesn't even convey this. Like he's a dude that's in a breeding apparatus. Okay, that
Oh, right.
mask,
He mentions being in an
it's a
iron
breeding
lung,
apparatus because
right,
Kano put him in there technically like that. But I don't even think in the original games it was Kano that did that to him. But him and Kano in the movie have history, and his voice is just so distracting. He sounds like a guy out of the Jersey Shore, and I don't remember that from the games with Cabal's like voice and stuff. Like it's just weird and distracting.
He does kind of have like a comic relief, like Joe Pesci voice.
His relevance to this is just out of nowhere. And like he dies in a cool, don't get me wrong, his fight with Liu Kang is a very cool death for that character. But it's like there's other stuff with that character that could have been done if they would have kept him alive. You know, the stuff with the Black Dragon Clan with him and Kano and everything else would have been super interesting because there's a lot of other stuff that we just don't get.
I feel like we're really making a case for like a Game of Thrones style, like HBO Max, like you want people to subscribe to HBO Max. I'm watching this show because then you don't have to like, not everything has to revolve around the tournament. All right, Becky, who is your LVP?
My LVP. I have to think for a moment.
Who's the worst?
Who's the worst? Most I know. Hold on. Because I have a few, so I'm just trying to pick one.
Just go. No, you can pick. Just go. You can go with a couple. I mean, you're new to this world. There's more than one thing, you know.
Cole's wife.
Oh yeah,
I don't know. I was just like, Cole's wife. I just was like, I don't know. It felt very like throwaway. Like I get why they needed it because they needed to give him stakes, but it really truly felt like they were in the writer's room and someone was like, I don't know, the stakes aren't high enough for Cole. Write in a family. Like it was so useless. Like yeah. So it's one that it would have been more interesting to me if he just had the daughter and there was this whole strong thing about keeping the bloodline alive and like protecting her. Like that would have been enough for me. I don't know. Yeah, the wife was she gave me nothing. And then I felt like it diluted what could have been a really interesting relationship between him and his kid. So that's an LVP for me.
I think you could say that about Cole in general, to be honest with you. Like Cole's whole character, no, for real, like Cole's whole character, he's just there to be the audience like window into this world for the most part. But like he really does not do much. Like they try to make him more important than what he actually is. And it's just like whatever.
And I think had they focused more on this whole idea of why is the bloodline so important? What happens when the bloodline dies out? What is the feud? If that was really the backbone of this initial story, that would have worked for me. But I understand because that's totally fabricated for this film and not part of the game, why that would be really kind of frustrating and upsetting for fans of the game because anyway, so I think it was, so that was like, it fell flat. And then if the bad guys, I don't know, put it this way, I liked the crazy jaw lady. I thought she was cool. And then all the other ones, like the weird multi-armed
Goro. Yeah, that's another
giant,
one. Oh my god, don't even get me started.
The green giant, the one that's dressed like a Mandalorian with his helmet.
That was Cabal.
Like all the ones. I'm just like, sorry. See, I just feel like a lot of them were like, we have superpowers and we're super bad, but like there was no cohesiveness to the bad guy team. So it was just like, what's going on? Why are you guys working together? What is your common goal? Is it just that you work for this one guy? Give me more. I think because it felt so, again, diluted. Most of them were like LVPs for me. I just thought the jaw lady had like the scariest looking look. And so I loved her.
Okay. All right. So now I've created a new, actually, no, before we get to my new bit of the show, we have a new bit of the show that we're going to start just using because of Mortal Kombat. All right. So MVP kill. So this is a movie where like the kills were, I don't like movies being R-rated for the sake of R-rated. I don't like superheroes movies being dark for the sake of dark, but Mortal Kombat has always been, since the earliest, the Blood and Guts code. The Blood and Guts code was like a code you would put in with the buttons in the Sega, right? The original Sega
for the Genesis.
To allow you to have blood and guts. It was always part of the game. So this had to kind of be R-rated to get the fatalities and all of that. Which kill was the best for you in the movie? I have mine. I have mine. All right, go ahead.
Sure. When what's her face was sawed in half, that was amazing. That
Yeah,
was
from
that was
Kung Lao.
incredible.
Kung Lao throws his hat.
That
That's
was
from the game.
because-
That's legit from the games.
Because they're, he's getting teased for his hat. Oh, your sombrero and your hat and this and that. And like as an audience member, you're like, okay, I'm gonna go with it. He's got a cool hat, but you gotta sell me on this hat thing. And then his move that wow, that blew me away. I was like, this hat is very cool. Anyways, that was my favorite.
That's mine as well, because I thought it was a glorious moment for Kung Lao, and I think he says flawless victory at the end of it.
Yeah.
So that was just awesome. All right, what about you, Jakejames?
For me, if it's not that one, it has to be Liu Kang's with the dragon, because I think that visually that looks very cool. It's
like
dope
that one
because
too.
when it happens to Cabal I think falls in oil, if I'm not mistaken, or it looked like oil. At least that's what I got from it. And when he does that and burns them up, it just looked like a cool visual like that. Like some of the kills are pretty dope in this. I'm not gonna lie. Even Kano's with Reptile, which I mean, it feels kind of lackluster in context of everything going on and stuff. But like even then, like that's his legit fatality from the first game. Like the whole thing, him ripping out the heart and stuff. So and even the one I think that was kind of mediocre, even though it's authentic to the games, was Scorpions at the end. Against Sub-Zero, where he breathes fire on him like that. That's legit a thing that he does. He just doesn't do it in the exact same way where you actually see like a whole skull, on his face. But it just, the way he dies, like he doesn't even turn Sub-Zero into a skeleton. Like he just like gets charcoal on him and then just like there's a bunch of dust and that's it. Like it could have been a little bit cooler to be authentic to the games and stuff. But I would have to say Liu Kang is probably the best one for me.
Very cool. All right, so now I have my new thing. Okay. It's essentially the peaks and valleys of a movie. So we have our flawless victory moment and then our fatality. Now, fatalities are awesome in Mortal Kombat, but like, what was a peak moment for you in the movie? And what was just like the part where you're like, what is going on here? Because this movie definitely had both of them. And I would say, so I get a little bit frustrated with fan service in movies and then people make fun of them. But I think that like I had been telling Becky throughout the whole movie, I'm like, Scorpion's going to come back and he's going to say, get over here. He's going to come back. I'm
sorry. Let's clarify. Every 3 to 5 minutes, Shai would just whisper under his breath, get over here. And then like 5 more minutes, get over here. He's so excited. And all I kept thinking is, we're getting closer and closer to the end. I go, oh no, if they don't deliver that line.
Oh, what? There's going to be riots
this is going to be a rough night.
I loved Scorpion coming back and doing get over here, and then they tease just ever so slightly, right? Because I'm like, they're not going to bring in the 90s dance music, but I thought the score was actually really good in the movie. Like I really liked the kind of like, this was a score that could have been total throwaway, and I actually really enjoyed the musical theme in the movie. And then the fact that they just for a few seconds gave you the dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun-dun within the context of the other music, to me that was just like, it all came together, like whatever else, confusion, whatever, like we came here to see Scorpion and Sub-Zero fight. And to me, that was a great climax in the actual climax of the movie. I would say my low point is probably just the general introduction of the dragon birthmark as a thing that people have to have in order to be able to compete in the tournament. To me, that just seemed sort of an arbitrary new thing. I don't know if it's
from
actually
the game.
I don't know if it's from the game, but it's never done something I've seen in the game. It just seemed like
it's like it feels like a parallel to what they did in the second movie for Annihilation, where like some of the bad guys had this tattoo that was like a thing for Shao Kahn and his army, and it's like, or his bloodline. It was really weird. It was dumb. It felt like it didn't need to be there, and also the explanation of the Arcana for the powers and stuff that's related to it. Also super stupid. Makes no sense.
Yeah, those were just like, they were things that they were like power-ups that people had to earn when, like, they could have just been like getting in touch with their energy. But maybe they were just trying to world build.
They could have just did that and would have been totally fine. I think that some of the powers, like Sony Blades, were stupid.
Yeah. Right, like why does the Arcana translate into a laser eye? Like, or like mechanical, like it seemed a bit odd that some of them for their Arcanas get like mechanical devices that can be broken versus like fireball powers.
None of that is in the games at all.
Weird.
Like even Jax's, like his arms, right? Like his mechanical arms, those are not Arcana magic or powers. Those are in the games. They're actual arms that he does, and he doesn't even get his arms broken originally in Mortal Kombat 2 and 3. He actually just enhances his arms because in the game's plot, Shao Kahn is breaking the rules of Mortal Kombat. He's coming to invade Earth, so he tries to upgrade his arms like that. It was later on where they actually rebooted it and changed it, where his arms got broken off and he got these cybernetic implants. In the movie, they explained it like, oh, the monks like tweaked and like gave him like fake arms and stuff, and now all of a sudden his Arcana is turning them into like real like functioning stuff. That made no sense.
Oh, that is what that was. I did not understand.
Kano's power. That's also another thing. Kano, if again for anybody that doesn't know, he was inspired by the original Terminator movie with the red eye. Okay, and his thing there was actually in the games a cybernetic implant that allowed him to shoot lasers like that. In the movie, they make it so that way he just shoots lasers out of one eye. Why would he shoot it out of two eyes?
Like, I really feel like they did that to save time, to be like, listen, we can't do all these montage sequences of people getting like surgeries and implants. We'll just say it's a superpower. Like it was, So
it was just like whatever.
Right, because someone probably was like, okay, they're transported to this magic temple.
Okay.
And they're like, but we don't have any surgeons.
My low moment is, well, it's like combined to create one low moment. One is when Sonya Blade and Jax, or Sonya's explaining to Cole, like, Jax and I were in the military, and here's this huge, crazy, wall map of how we pieced everything together of what, of like what Mortal Kombat is, and you're like, and I'm like, okay, sure, why not? And then when we meet Liu Kang, he's like, Liu Kang? Liu Kang. He's like, we've been going out finding all of the tattoo people. I'm like, well, it seems like Jax and Sonya have been on this for like 6 or 7 years trying to find you guys. And Raiden has all these magical teleporting powers. How could you have not found them sooner?
Where did he get the list of people that have this tattoo? Like,
and like also, like, and so like their only way, like it just doesn't make sense that their only way of getting to the temple is with Kano, but Raiden is supposedly super powerful and is finding them, and it's just like no, I'm like, it's really falling apart here. I just would have liked it if either Raiden found everyone or they found Raiden and he wasn't out looking for people, like one or the other. But when they started to do, when they said both are happening at the same time, I'm like, it doesn't work.
And what was your flawless victory, Becky?
Your best moment.
If that was your fatality, what was your flawless victory?
My flawless victory, I really, really loved when Cole and Scorpion team up at the end to fight Sub-Zero. And it's this like generational bond thing. I thought that's where Cole's character actually was pretty cool, when it's not just like two people on the same team, but it's like the ancestor and then the living, relative together. They need to work together to fight Sub-Zero and defeat him, or at least get rid of him for now. So I like that moment, because there's like a moment in the fight. Because there's like a moment in the fight when they're in the cage with him together. Yeah, like that's what I mean. Yeah.
And what about you, Jakejames? Your flawless victory and your fatality.
Okay, so. There's a lot of moments that were cool, like the fights were cool, little things like that were pretty dope. My best moment, though, is very small and very stupid and very silly. It's when they find Liu Kang, or Liu Kang finds them really in the desert as they're looking for Raiden's temple, and he not only knocks Kano off down to the ground with his fireball and stuff, but then as he's talking, he puts his shoulder on Kano's thing, and Kano's like, the fuck? Like, it was just like a moment that was so like, I was in with that character already, but it was that where his reaction was just so authentic and weird and hilariously timed that just was like, okay, I love this.
What I loved about Josh Lawson in this film is that what I know him most from is a TV show called House of Lies with Don Cheadle and Kristen Bell, and he plays this like very uptight, nerdy Princeton business guy, and like just to see him let loose in this like much more like 80s 90s villain type of character, I'm like, how do they make a sequel and not have him come back?
He was the best part of this movie.
They're gonna find a way. But also, of the group, he's probably one of the most like well-known American actors that's in the film, because a lot of the other guys are known. That like I know who Joe Taslim is, but like there aren't like that's not someone that people have seen on until recently, an HBO show he's in Warrior. But like Josh Lawson's kind of been around, so but like yeah, he's kind of the only one. All right, now let's look ahead to the next movie. All right, which character from the Mortal Kombat universe, not seen, would you like to see in the next movie? Becky,
Like,
you're just
actually
gonna have to
see?
play too. You just Google quickly Mortal
Like,
Kombat characters,
who should be in it? The
Like-
next one that should be in that we did
or
not
just
get
that you want to be in it. Like if you want to make it like if it's like like if you want to be logical, you'll say Noob Saibot, because they basically have showed us that Noob Saibot's going to be in this movie. But that's not. It doesn't have to be that unless that's your favorite character. But who would you like to see? Who would you like to see be in the next version? Beck, I'm going to send you right now just a list of Mortal Kombat characters.
I think that the next one that makes no sense to me is that we're going to see Shao Kahn. I feel like we're going to see him. He's going to be cast. I mean, everybody would probably say Johnny Cage. Like that was a whole thing, and that's a whole nother aspect of this movie that I felt like they kind of dropped the ball with, and the reasoning.
I was okay with that,
but it's like
always...
it's whatever. But like really, for me, I think as far as like threat from the bad guys concerned, it would be Shao Kahn. I feel like that's the next logical step with him and Shang Tsung, actually trying to move forward with the tournament. I feel like that sets it up also for a third film, like to get into Mortal Kombat 3 stuff. But that at least would be my pick.
Okay, so my pick, and Beck, are you reviewing the pictures from the search I just sent you?
No, I was doing my own research, but okay.
My pick, the character, like, first of all, I love all the ninjas, Ermac and Noob Saibot and all that, but the character that I want to see next that I find just to be really haunting, and I think he adds a certain depth, and I think he's turned out to be cooler than Shang Tsung, is Quan Chi. Quan Chi.
Oh, they have his amulet in it.
Oh, they do? Okay.
That amulet that Kano tries to steal, that's Quan Chi's amulet. That's actually Shinnok's amulet, but they never really explain that. Like it's just there. It just looks like a jewel and stuff, but that's Quan Chi's amulet.
See, I like Quan Chi he's a sorcerer who is part of the Netherrealm, I guess, but he has his own agenda, and I like that about him. Like he's sort of in the group of the bad guys. It really reminds me of like the 80s villains with like Skeletor or G.I. Joe, where there's like different factions.
He's like Hordak. Basically.
Yeah, exactly. He's got his own game that he's running, and he's sort of part of the. If I recall, he's actually the one behind the fallout between Sub-Zero and Scorpion.
He was the one that caused it. Like he was the one that he framed Bihan for making Scorpion think that he killed his family and stuff. But he did that in order to not only kill off the clans and stuff, but to get a Spectre to help him with his quest in order to get Shinnok, which is one of the elder gods, the evil elder god, come back to life. That's why he has the amulet in the first place.
So to me, Quan Chi adds a lot, and I just love his character design. He's bald, and he's got the like markings on him, and he's got the magic. So I'd like to see Quan Chi.
I'm trying to find another, because they have some pretty badass bad guy, like villain female characters. I'm trying to find some more good guy female characters. It's looking like maybe Cassie Cage or Jackie Briggs might be.
Those are the kids of some of the characters we see in this movie. Like Jackie Briggs is Jax's daughter.
Right.
And Casey is Johnny Cage and Sonya Blade's daughter.
And they were just introduced in the last game or the
Spoiler alert. Oh my God. Spoiler alert. I guess we know who's going to get together in the next movie.
Well, but that's just like...
That's been like 20 years in the making.
Jackie Briggs, Jackie Briggs and Cassie Cage are two awesome additions to the Mortal Kombat universe.
Well, I guess they won't make it in the next movie, but hopefully between now and then.
They basically like I mean, Jax was always fine, but I think his daughter is a cooler character.
She seems much cooler.
And Cassie Cage is an upgraded version of Sonya Blade. It kind of has both her and Johnny Cage. Yeah, those are great. Those are more... See, Johnny Cage to me, like, he's kind of funny because he's this Hollywood guy who, gets sucked into them. He was the original audience avatar. Like, Liu Kang was like the hero, but the guy that was like a normal person who's like, what the hell is happening here? Comedy relief was Johnny Cage, and they just didn't use him in this, which I think was
they just didn't
fine.
bother because Kano was the one that fulfilled that role basically.
Yeah.
And so
And-
if
and
you want good female characters that could appear in the next movie, like obviously Katana, I would say Jade would be another one. Like as far as anti-hero would be Tanya. I think is another one that you could say about that. They could also try to bring in someone like Scarlet, which is another from the person from like the later games and stuff. Like there's a lot they could pull from. That's all over the place.
Yeah, that's
Because that's what they did in this movie. They pulled from like a variety of different games, like not just specifically like the first Mortal Kombat movie that was ever made in the 90s. That was from Mortal Kombat 1 and 2. And that's specifically what they had to work with at the time, even though 3 and 4 had already been around. But this one, they went all over the place with this.
Yeah. So that's cool. All right. Okay. Now we do have a gaming expert here. All right. And so I would love to know, like, if you're going to tell people these days to start with a Mortal Kombat game, what's the game they should start with that will be fun and cool to play, but also like make you feel somewhat connected to this movie, like get you excited for this movie, which is
start with the original trilogy. Like I would say, because my favorite has always been Mortal Kombat 2. I stick by that game. To me,
many people say that
it's my favorite out of the original trilogy, and it's because of the style, the aesthetic, and just the setup of the world and what Mortal Kombat eventually became. Because the first game is very primitive for what it is. Like it was really the pioneer of the rotoscoping technology that they used or at least, for the sprites and stuff, which is great. But like Mortal Kombat 2, they really went above and beyond with it. That made it the best version of that. I'm not so much of a fan of Mortal Kombat 3 because I don't think like the run and like the combo mechanic really works for the Mortal Kombat like style of fighting, the gameplay system. But 2, I would say, is probably the best one, or at least play all the original trilogy. But if you want like more modern stuff, like the best way to get into this stuff, play the reboot, which is Mortal Kombat 9, which was on PS3 and Xbox 360. Like, because that has a lot of different elements from the entire franchise, but really streamlines into what Mortal Kombat is at its heart.
I love that game. That game got me to fall back in love with Mortal Kombat, and it's very easy to play. Like I'm playing Mortal Kombat 11 right now, and it is like it's very cool and the story's wild, but it's super hard to play for me at least. All right. One more thing before we get to our shout outs and our recommendations is it's Oscar week. So this episode will drop next Friday. So the Oscars will have already happened, but one big pick, one movie or actor or thing that you're rooting for in this year's Oscars. Becky, who's at the top of your list? Like who you want to see win?
Crip Camp. I want to see Crip Camp win.
Why? Do you want to say why?
That is I work I work at an audio post-production house called Immersive Sound. And we did the sound design and mixing for that. And the director of the film, Jim Lebrecht, he's the former owner of it. He's the owner of Berkeley Sound Artists. And he mixed this film himself with our whole team working on it. We are deeply invested in this film. We have been since the very, very early days before it was picked up by Netflix or Obama produced. So Crip Camp is very near and dear to my heart, to my whole team's heart. And we are going to be, on the edge of our seats cheering Jim on. And we really, really want to see them win tomorrow. I mean, tonight when we're recording this. Well, we hope they win.
Wild. Maybe we should watch the Oscars a little bit.
Yeah, we should.
Jakejames.
So a lot of the movies, like I'm just going through some of the nomination stuff. A lot of these movies I have not seen, for obvious reasons, like obviously with the pandemic and things going on and stuff. I haven't really like kept in the loop of them. Some of the things I do recognize for some of the other categories. I'll tell you right now, Chadwick Boseman is going to get a posthumous Oscar. I think that's going to happen. I think Best Animated is going to go to Soul because that's another movie I feel like that a lot of people have loved. And I think probably out of the nominees for Best Film, I think Judas and the Black Messiah is probably going to win because there's a lot of big changes, a lot of stuff that's been going on with Hollywood, specifically within the Academy, the way that they've been like choosing winners and as far as like the way that they look at movies now with a lot of the social issues that have been put out there and stuff. And I feel like that's going to be a film probably out of like most of the other ones there that I feel like has not only a lot of people that people know in the mainstream, like Ryan Coogler, obviously is like a director and stuff that's going to get attention. And I feel like that's the ones that are probably going to end up winning.
Very cool. Well, I am rooting hard for Mr. Kemp Powers. I would like to see him walk away with not one, but 2 Oscars. One he's going to get for co-directing Soul, which is a brilliant freaking masterpiece. Okay. But I to me, I've seen a bunch of the movies. I haven't seen all of them. I wish I had time to see more. But the screenplay of One Night in Miami is so like powerful. Like that is a movie where I was watching, I was like, oh my God, every word in this movie is so perfectly crafted that I really, really want to see him. I really want to see him win like one Oscar. I know he's going to get. I want him to get two. All right, let's talk shout outs and recs. This is where we share what we've been watching, what we're into these days. Becky, what shout? I know you have a shout out to an important business, this local business that you want to support.
Yeah.
But is there anything else that you're watching and recommend as well? But
now that I'm local to the DC area, I love to support my local shops and business owners. And there's this great company owned by it's a Black owned company. It's owned by these three young brothers. And I bring that up that it's a Black owned business because they do a lot of work to support Black Lives Matter, and they have been selling. They make candles. They do these hand poured candles. They're these sweet three brothers that I follow them on Instagram. Their company's called Frere Branchio. We will put a link, and they are selling a candle these days. That the proceeds are going in direct support of various organizations that support Black Lives Matter movement, and I love them. I love following them on Instagram. They're just like the sweetest three brothers, and I want to just give them a shout out this week. And buyers, treat yourself to some nice candles and support this wonderful local business that's right in our area where Shai and I live. So that's my shout out. I don't know what I watched Mortal Kombat. That was like my big thing this week. And you
started Resident Alien. What do you think?
Oh my God, I started Resident Alien. I love it. I'm going to quickly say my favorite thing about the show is that they use practical effects for his alien look. They actually just use like an alien suit that's hilarious and amazingly low tech, and it's wonderful. And you can follow me on Twitter at PaperBKPrincess.
Very cool. All right, Jakejames, Lugo, your shout outs, your recs, and where can people follow you?
Okay, so my shout outs, I'll do something similar for a local business, that one that I've actually had gotten a lot of respect for, that's helped me a lot, and it's really supported my work and my channel and stuff. Flynn's Arcade Gaming and More here in Margate, Florida.
They did Flynn's. They did the like video game setup at the Comic-Con we were at, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they actually brought in a bunch of arcade machines there for people just to free play and just hang and stuff. But they have a space here in Margate in South Florida, and they have a lot of open gaming. You pay like a nominal fee of like $15 or something. You get to play all night, all day there, as long as they're open. You get to play arcade machines, console games on projector screens. They're actually going to be getting a second space in like that same building complex where they have it all devoted to tabletop gaming and other types of console gaming. They're really doing a lot of stuff. But one of the things that I liked, that Eddie, who's the guy that runs it, he supports a lot of the local businesses within that area. He actually allows them to promo their stuff, gives recommendations to some of his customer base to go check out some of the restaurants there, some of the other like snack spots, drink spots, other like local artists. He also does, when he has like big events, he actually had a cosplay event where he opened up the arcade, get everybody at a discount, but also allowed a bunch of cosplayers to come and dress up, allowed conventions that are within the Florida area or South Florida area to come set up tables, promote their cons for the upcoming like year and stuff, especially during COVID as things were going down and he had to close up. But when he was able to open up and was allowed to within this area, he was doing different stuff like that, to kind of lift up everybody else and like push them out there. And he's been very good to me, over the time. Everybody there at Flynn's has been nice. So definitely, if you're in the area, you're in Margate, Florida, or just South Florida, and you want another gaming spot or gaming or otaku convention related spot to go check out, just take a visit over there because they do a lot of great stuff. There are a lot of good people too, a lot of good community building, which is nice. As far as what I've been watching, besides Mortal Kombat and like other stuff, I would say like probably the biggest thing that also came out the same day as Mortal Kombat was the last episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like,
I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it yet.
Let me put it this way: it's short. You could binge it in like a day. You could probably binge it later tonight if you want.
Oh no, wait, I haven't seen the last 2 episodes. I've seen the show. We're big fans of the show.
Oh yeah, we haven't seen. I'm on the last episode. I'm very excited. Actually, I've weirdly been watching them on Sunday nights.
I'm in with the Marvel shows. I'll tell you right now. I liked WandaVision. I really like Falcon and Winter Soldier because it's more of an action show for me. Like that, I've had fun with it. But it gets me excited to see more of what's going on with the MCU besides the movies because I think these shows are very well done and very well handled. Even though I've been watching it every single week, kind of like how I did with The Mandalorian, same thing. I've just been looking forward to it every single Friday morning or like early Friday morning. I'll get up and watch it on my tablet like that. And I'm excited to see Loki. I'm excited to see Armor Wars. I'm excited to see all these different shows besides the movies. Like the MCU is it right now for Disney/Marvel. Like there's a lot of great stuff happening there. And as a fan, like I can't complain. Like there's not anything bad that like really sticks out to me. I'm just having fun watching all that stuff. So
I think comics and these bigger universes are just better in serial limited series storytelling, and Marvel and Star Wars are kind of figuring this out right now. And
Marvel's got it though. Marvel's got it at the moment. Like,
yeah, I'd like to see more of this than less everyone trying to jam something into a 3-act movie. So, it's just more interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
And where can people follow you? I know there's tons of places people can follow.
Yeah, I'm all over the place, but like my main spots, you could obviously find me on YouTube, youtube.com/gamers with gains channel, or just search Jakejames Lugo in the search bar. You'll find me there. I'm uploading every single week, almost nearly every single day, review videos, highly edited, highly produced video reviews about different games of all types, vlogs. I just put up my Mortal Kombat movie vlog that I just me sitting in front of the camera, just talking about, getting into spoilers, my whole review of that film, doing unboxing videos of like different tech, like headphones, accessories for game consoles. I even did it for the PlayStation 5. I got a PS5 recently that I was able to do that. And the same thing, event coverage and all types of stuff, gameplay impressions, all types of things, man. Like every single week, you can find that on there. You could also follow me on Twitter at JakeJamesLugo. I'm literally on there every single day posting up stuff. Instagram at JakeJamesLugo, same thing, posting up stuff. And also Patreon, patreon.com/JakeJamesLugo. I have a bunch of exclusive content there. I try to keep things cheap, like for $1, I give early access to some of my newest like video reviews and extra exclusive bonus content, podcasts, other stuff, blog posts that I do. I'm trying to do a lot, man. So show some love, check it out, share with your friends.
That's
love
awesome.
that. That's so great.
We're so grateful for having you here.
This was so much fun, and truly for me, much needed. To get like the in-depth on this whole world. I'm really excited for the next
Beck,
movie.
you should come over now and play. I'm going to play a little Mortal Kombat 11.
I'm going to come over and play.
If you want something cool, I actually did video reviews on most of the original Mortal Kombat games. I have the original trilogy. I did a whole video that I did in collaboration.
We got to watch
that. Mark 99, who's my boy. He's a big Mortal Kombat expert that joined me for the review. We also did the sequel trilogy, so all the PlayStation 2 games. We did a whole video review like covering all those. I've done Mortal Kombat trilogy. There's a whole playlist devoted to Mortal Kombat that gets you in the know. That could.
All right. I'm gonna start doing a deep dive. This is great.
Come over. We'll play. I'll play some Mortal Kombat. Okay. All right. And for me, aside from recommending everything that Jakejames Lugo is up to, and again, I just love the YouTube channel. The videos are just so, especially for a lot of the people who listen to our show are more movie TV fans, and I think because you bring that approach and you explained to us the reasoning behind it, it's very accessible. Very accessible for folks, even if you're not a gamer, because of the way you lay it out for people. So I love it. And I just watched Enola Holmes with my daughter yesterday, with my older daughter. And this is, a lot of people recommended it to me, but my buddy Josh recommended it to me first, and Lily recommended it to me. And what was so great about it is that my daughter just throughout this movie just kept saying, "This is brilliant. I love this. I love her character." So Millie Bobby Brown, I love her. Like, over under on how many Oscars she's going to get in her life. I mean, how many she's going to get by she's 30. She's just awesome. Mighty Ducks Game Changers on Disney, loving that. And now we're going back and watching the movies again. And then I'll just say I talk about Crazy Ex-Girlfriend on a regular basis. Season 4 has an episode that is themed around cats. And I tweeted it at the hosts of the podcast, EJ Dixon and Dan Alexander, because I needed them to know. I'm guessing they already know this exists, but I was dying and laughing. It was even a parody of Cats. I love, because everything. I'm a big Cats fan. All right. With that, you can follow me at Pancake for Table on Twitter and Instagram, or all of the Friday Night Movie shenanigans at Friday Night Movie on Twitter and Instagram, or FridayNightMoviePod.com. Please join us in supporting some of the organizations that we find really important for our country, including the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, the Equal Justice Initiative, and the Asian American Journalists Foundation. You also can check out the awesome business that Becky talks about. Can you say the name of the brothers again?
Frere Branchio.
Frere Branchio.
I'll send you a link. You'll awesome. Put it in. You'll put it in the show notes.
And then last but not least, our theme music will kick in post-production. I know Jakejames understands that, the post-production process. And that is by What Does It Eat? And we dance our way into the afternoon. Thank you so much to our guest, Jakejames Lugo, for being here, and have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.